Hey, y'all, gravity, any day above ground living. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. Yeah, you saw the thumbnail and the title. Yeah, you might have heard about it yesterday. Yeah, Breakfast Club sold out. Now, I saw the comments. They were like, this is a great conversation to have. This is the problem. We're all for talking to different people, but at a certain point, you have to gatekeep your media. I understand that the Breakfast Club is under the iHeartRadio banner. I get it. And I get iHeart every few months, they want to bring on somebody controversial. I mean, they had them bring on Candace Owens. They've had them bring on Umar multiple times. I understand. But again, you got to gatekeep your media. Think about it like this before we begin. Do you think Ben Shapiro would have Charlemagne the God on his show? And he's had ample opportunity to do it. Hasn't done it. Do you think any of these right wingers would bring on somebody that is not a conservative? No. But consistently, you watch center left platforms and center right platforms platform the worst people. If you ain't gonna cuss them out, don't bring them on. But it doesn't matter because they're all about ratings and social media views. Well, Ben Shapiro went on the Breakfast Club, flew his stupid ass away from Florida to New York to do this, and we're going to listen to what he says. And I'm guessing that a lot of it is going to be BS anyway, but you know, as his name suggests, it's BS. So we're going to listen to BS. But we're going to do what we did last time. Because we know how the Breakfast Club at iHeartRadio act. They like to take down channels, take down videos that play their stuff. So what we're going to do is, I know y'all don't want to see this, but you know what we'll do? We'll get that picture. We'll get that picture. There we go. We'll get this one. So while the video's playing, you get to look at this. This is when he got punked by some transgender person during a debate. So let's begin. And that's wild that he has Febreze right here on the desk. That's wild.
Very interesting brief. You define a lion as people who uphold biblical values, individual responsibility, and moral. Yes. You contrast with savages who say man entitled, blame systemic oppression, and lack of purpose. Sure. So I think the basic division is not a right-left division. In the book, I actually tried really hard not to turn it into a right-left division because I don't think that it actually is. And I think it's also an internal battle inside our own heart that we get up in the morning and you have to decide when you face down the problems of the day whether you're going to be somebody who takes responsibility, does your duty, gets out of bed, and actually decides to do something meaningful in the world, or whether you can be somebody who looks at the problems in your life, blames some sort of shadowy system, and then complains about that. Now, none of that is to...
Man, I called him man because he's a man. Sometimes I forget he looked like Brett Cooper. Sir. Plus, the transgender had him by the neck, so I got to make sure we call him man. But, sir, y'all right wingers do that every day. Every day. Y'all wake up to find something to be outraged about. And when we do the live later today, we will show you how they wake up, get those text messages or emails from the influencer agency, and decide to have an outrage. But we're going to let it continue.
Claim that there aren't systems that exist that are bad and that need to be fixed. But you need evidence and you need actual correctives to those systems in order to actually practically fix those systems. So the contrast that I'm making here is between people who decide that they want to build, create social fabric, be innovative, be risk takers, and people who simply want to tear down. And you see, for example, in some of these college protests, people who are marching together who have nothing in common except that they just don't like the system, and they don't even have a replacement for the system. It's just that the system itself must be to blame for all of their problems. So that's sort of the basic contrast. I'm sorry, I know you just jumped out the window. For people that don't know who Ben Shapiro is, let's start from the beginning. Explain to people who Ben Shapiro is.
I'll help you. He's a fraud. This was the same man who said that the cops who killed George Floyd should be in jail, and then the second that they were told to push the narrative that he died of a fentanyl overdose, he changed his tune. He's a fraud. He's the man who goes to college campuses to go debate college students, but every time he goes and debates a grown-ass adult, he gets his wig pushed in. I was going to say something else, but I'm not going to do that today. The man's a fraud. The man takes Israel money. He's a fraud. And again, y'all platformed him. So you gave him legitimacy among black people. Y'all might as well just go interview Andrew Tate. You might as well just go do that.
Where you start, where you came from, and et cetera, so they know.
Sure. So, I mean, my basic job is that I'm co-founder of the Daily Wire, which is the second largest conservative media organization in the country after Fox News, probably. I have a podcast called The Ben Shapiro Show that's about 10 years old now, and maybe the biggest conservative podcast in the country. And, you know, my sort of early beginnings, where I grew up in Burbank, California, thank God I had the highest form of privilege, which was fantastic parents. And I grew up in a very small...
Oh, he's talking about his privilege. Oh, I lived in Burbank. I lived in Movie Studio Central. Oh. But he loved to tell you, like 30-something years later, how oppressed he is. Oh.
All like 1,100 square foot house with 3 sisters, 1 bedroom for us, 1 for my parents, 1 bathroom for 6 people. And, you know, I've been, again, privileged to live in the greatest country in the world. And so went to UCLA, went to Harvard Law School. I've been doing commentary on politics since I was about 17 years old. I'm now 41. So
what got you into politics so early at 17? What did you see that said, no, I want to do this? So what didn't you like that made you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I was always fascinated just by history. And because I was a big reader, I skipped a couple of grades. I went to college when I was 16. And so because I loved reading, because I loved history and politics, I just got very, very into it. And, you know, we live in interesting times now. I thought they were interesting back when I was 17. It is way more interesting and insane now. I feel like an alternative timeline. We somehow spun off into Elon's, you know, fever dream. But it's definitely we're in a weird place now.
Was your goal always to be a commentator, or did you want to jump into, say, I want to do something at the White House, or?
No, it was always to be a commentator. I mean, again, from the time I was 17, I had a syndicated column when I was 17 years old. So at the time, I was the youngest syndicated columnist in the country. I'd say most of the dumb crap that I said was between the ages of like 17 and 25, like most people. And I do have a running list.
Sir, you're still saying the same dumb crap. So from 17 to whatever big age you are, you're still saying dumb crap. This is the man who bragged about having... You'll hear it later when he talks about his rap song. This is the same man who was saying the lyrics to WAP on his show. The same man who went to go see Barbie 3 times. He was probably that meme of... what's her name? Damn. Tisha Campbell in Higher Learning, when she was having an orgasm in the seat. All right.
Because so much of my, you know, political career has been public. From the time I was a teenager, I actually have a running list on our website of all the dumb crap that I've said over the course of my career, trying to either explain or apologize for stupid things that I've said. You know, I think we should be...
People listen to that. Just blame it on AI. Why would you ever do that?
I think it's the honest way to go, right? I mean, better do that. Otherwise, somebody uncovers it and uses it against you. So you may as well.
I agree with that, but you know what? I always had a saying, live your truth so nobody uses your truth against you. And I call it the Eminem and 8 Mile theory. You know, at the end of 8 Mile, Eminem said everything, you know, about himself that his opponent could say about him. They're still going to use it against you regardless.
I mean, that's definitely true. Yeah. But so there are certain statements where I'm like, yeah, no, I meant that when I wrote that in 19. And then there are statements where I really think it was kind of dumb. And so I would like people to know that I think that it was dumb, that I've changed my mind on things. Yeah.
What's the biggest one you think?
Let's see. There was a column that I wrote about civilian casualties when I was 19 years old that was poorly articulated at best, talking about how the U.S. Army should basically not take consideration of civilian casualties because I would rather, you know, protect American soldiers than worry too much about civilian casualties. It wasn't articulated in that way. I think the general principle of that is still, you know, true. That when you're looking at American soldiers, obviously you have to value their lives and you have to make sure that they can actually engage in wars in ways that protect them, because obviously we're American and our interest in America is protecting America. But it was very poorly articulated. That'd be a big one.
I want y'all to understand what he's doing. He's justifying what Trump is doing. He's low-key doing it. And it's something that I saw the last couple of days on Twitter with these right-wingers. saying that they don't care about the civilian casualties when the army hits these cities. Just keep that in mind. But go ahead.
You feel that way about the Israel-Gaza war?
Sure. I mean, yes. I mean, Israel, and I know a lot of people over in Israel, obviously, and yeah, I know a lot of soldiers.
Here we go. Kipper, let me ask you a question, Fish. Why are you allowing the fascist Islamists to come over and take over? Why are y'all allowing that? Answer me that. Back to this.
Great wound going house to house in a conflict where
You
clearly.
people in Israel?
I know, shocker, right? Well, what was the giveaway? Exactly.
But you believe that, so you understand why people are upset about what Israel is doing?
I mean, I certainly understand that conflict is incredibly ugly, and when you look at pictures, particularly drone pictures of wrecked areas, then it's very.
Kids being killed.
I mean, any conflict.
Civilians, casual civilians.
I mean, yes. Although I will say, obviously, that I believe that Israel has been as meticulous as any army in history in terms of its tactics in urban warfare, and the numbers bear this out. And
Meticulous, he says. Meticulous. Now, you see how he said the Israeli army? He didn't say Mossad, though. He didn't say nothing about the Israel secret police. He didn't say anything about that. I get it though, Ben. You got to shill. I get it. But Charlemagne's not smart enough to go down that road. But let's see. Maybe he'll surprise me today.
again, I know people who've had their legs blown off going specifically house to house when Israel had complete air superiority. If Israel just didn't care about civilian casualties, they would level the place October 8th. And they did not. They've been going house to house. They've been moving populations. Obviously, all this is ugly. There's no such thing as a pretty war, particularly in an urban environment. And could things be done differently, or should they be done differently? In case-by-case situations, I'm sure, yes. I mean, again, war is very ugly. But this sort of large-scale accusations that have been made that Israel doesn't care about civilians, or that Israel has been attempting a genocide, that's just factually untrue.
I was going to ask, with you being in media, it seems like these days you don't know who to trust in media, right? Because it seems like media gets it wrong. We see all the time with reputable sources. So what do you say to those people? Because we don't know what to believe anymore, especially if it's something that we don't necessarily know what times to say.
So what I say on my show all the time is actually you should listen to I'm conservative. You should listen to my show, and then you should listen to a show coming from the other side. And where we are saying the same thing, that's usually the core fact, and everything else is opinion. And then you can sort of determine for yourself whether you think one opinion is more plausible than the other. I obviously agree with me, and so I tend to think that my opinions are well-grounded in evidence and fact. But obviously I have a lot of friends who are on the other side of the aisle who believe exactly the same thing. And so I think that the best way to actually achieve.
You heard what he just said? Fam, if nothing else, this is what we've been trying to teach y'all as well in New Black Media. I want you to listen to what he just said.
Opinion is more plausible than the other. I obviously agree with me, and so I tend to think that my opinions are well-grounded in evidence and fact. But obviously I have a lot of friends who are on the other side of the aisle who believe exactly the same thing. And so I think that
Y'all are being worked. And this is what we try to tell y'all all the time. Y'all are being worked by both sides. You know, when we tell you Democrats, Republicans work together, don't make it seem, don't look at it as they hate each other. It goes the same thing with these ideologies. They love each other. They have each other's phone numbers. Some of these people have admitted they've met these people. And now they go on the platforms years later talking about how they're stupid and they hate them. They're texting each other. They're hoisting beers with each other. And y'all sitting up there, not y'all all right, but you got folk up there sitting, taking sides. F them both. The only opinions that should matter is what you formulate. Because it's your decision. Never let somebody else lead you. Because at the end of the day, they can walk off the path anytime. You have to walk it. But, you know. Back to this.
the best way to actually achieve your own sense of understanding of the facts is to listen to a wide variety of sources and then try to come to a conclusion that is mostly based on the evidence.
And
Okay, you know, that's interesting. I want to go back to your book in a second, but I'm glad you said that because you don't think what's happening in Gaza is a genocide.
Correct.
Okay, but the world's leading association of genocide scholars have declared that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Based on
Angela, you better stop before Trump and them send you there too.
Read their actual study. It's not based on the quote-unquote pure definition of genocide. They don't actually even define genocide in the document. And they basically went out to their membership, but they didn't go out to the entire membership. They went out to generic membership. It is very easy to join the International Association of Genocide Scholars. In fact, there were several people yesterday who just signed up and were immediately admitted, even though they have no actual background in genocide. The question is not whether some sort of coterie of people who call themselves experts in an issue aren't quote-unquote experts on the issue. The question is whether the definition is met. The definition of genocide is not met in Gaza by any stretch of the imagination, and you can cite to me, a group that I hadn't heard of until 2 seconds ago, and nobody had heard of until 2 seconds ago, that voted in a particular way. That doesn't make a difference definitionally.
So what is a genocide mean?
A genocide is the attempt to forcibly destroy an entire population, which is not what is happening.
Like the person.
Right, it's not what's happening. Netanyahu said it, Biden said it, Trump said it, but it's not happening, right? Gaza City 2035, that was made up, right? August 2023, we didn't hear that, right? We didn't hear the multiple phone calls between Biden and Netanyahu yelling at each other over what he was doing. Okay. We didn't hear Trump send his envoy over there to Israel to go look at the progress of the destruction of Gaza. We didn't see that. Okay. All right. They're not trying to eliminate the Palestinians. They're not doing that. The same folk who just said that was the same one saying that the Palestinians were supporting Hamas. The same folk who push the narrative that the people of Palestine who are not aligned with the government are somehow aligned with the Hamas government. But there's no genocide happening, even though there's documented proof. Even the UN and the ICJ have reports that they put out. That's not happening. Okay. I guess they're using the black people standard, right? I guess so. It's not at a dangerous enough level, so there ain't no genocide going on. Okay. All right. I bet if it was reversed, though, never mind.
Well, again, Israel has shipped in more humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip than literally any army to a population that supports the enemy in literally all of human history. They've been shipping in about 4,400 calories per day per person into the Gaza Strip in the middle of a war in which the enemy is holding actual Israeli hostages underground, who, as we've seen from...
And why did they do that, Ben? Because the governing bodies of the world told them to do that. But, okay. All right. Yeah, prayers to the victims, but fuck both of them. All right, Ben. You got it, Ben. You keep shilling. I'm sure Charlemagne gonna have his book right next to the ball. Watch what I tell you.
Some of the pictures are actually starving. Yet none of this is to claim that the war is pretty or meticulous or anodyne, because it isn't. It's really, really, really ugly. Over the course of this war, about 3% of the Gazan population has been killed or wounded. If you're going to look at a actual genocide, obviously the prototypical case being the Holocaust, you're looking at 50% of the entire Jewish population in Europe destroyed. If you're looking at other attempted genocides, say the genocide in Rwanda, you're talking about extraordinarily high percentages of the population that are wiped out. You certainly are not seeing procedures that require 4 layers of actual legal authority in order to do a drone strike. And I've actually seen the tape of them doing this. They spot from the air a terrorist who's going into a particular civilian area. You have to take like a full minute where the pilot on the drone calls up the legal authority, who then calls up the higher legal authority to get clearance for the actual drone strike, and they will call.
So why are the people there protesting, sir? Why are Israelis protesting in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem? Why? Okay.
Off the drone strike if they believe that the military target is too costly in terms of civilian casualties. And Hamas knows this, which is why they're hiding among civilians. In fact, the best proof that this is not, in fact, a purposeful genocide is the fact that Hamas is hiding behind civilians. The reason you hide behind civilians is because you know your enemy doesn't want to kill civilians.
Oh, good God.
Your enemy doesn't care about killing civilians, you wouldn't hide among
Sir, every terrorist does that. What the fuck is he talking about? He's dumb. Okay, Ben, let me help you. The supposed hijackers from 9/11 were in Florida and the government knew and didn't do nothing. They hid among the people, but they knew where they were. Prophet of Doom shot out that train in New York in 2022 and went among the people, but somehow the cops found him that quick. All your cousins, them white shooters, they work amongst the public, but they know because they see their posts, but they wait till they do something, then they go get them. Yeah. But Hamas is somehow more sophisticated by hiding amongst the people, but Israel, with all the money we're giving them, can't find these people, but they know who they are. Okay, got it.
civilians. That wouldn't be a defense mechanism.
Do you think Israel needs a regime change?
I mean, Israel's a democracy. They've had, I think, 5 elections in the last 4 years. There probably will be election again in March. I do not think that Israel would be conducting this war very differently if there was somebody else in power. And I actually know every Israeli prime minister for the last 10 years, including the ones who are on the opposite side. People like Yair Lapid, who's on the opposite side, or Naftali Bennett, who's on the opposite side.
You were just talking earlier, you said about people that don't necessarily have the same beliefs, of course, that you have. And that was a big conversation when Trump came into office. People said, I can't speak with you, you can't be my friend, you can't come to my house because I don't believe what you believe. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's totally insane. I have a lot of friends who are on the other side of the aisle, who voted for Kamala Harris, who voted for Joe Biden in 2020. I think the real question is whether, we are going to... I think that there are people for whom you can't have a conversation because the motivations for the conversation are so different that it's impossible to
You mean like
have a
y'all?
conversation, and they're just so many breaths in your life that you have, and wasting your breath. When you're on your deathbed, you really want to be thinking about those 2 hours that you spent talking to the person who is just arguing right past you. And then there are conversations where you disagree on the proper solutions, you may even disagree on the goals, but you can have like a good conversation without doubting the good heart of the person who's talking to you.
You talk about, I like the Lions and Scavengers analogy, right? But I want you to expound on it because you say it's not a political thing. It's not a race thing. Do you feel like that could be an overly simplistic way of analyzing these societal conflicts? Because all of those things play a role.
I mean, so any binary is going to oversimplify. Anytime you say there's 2 types of people, X and Y, right? That's always going to be an oversimplification in the most part. As far as the complex factors that factor into any conflict, of course, you have to analyze those to determine whether it's being driven by envy or whether it's being driven by a legitimate grievance, right? And so I think that some people can have a goal that is driven by a legitimate grievance, and some people can have a goal that's driven by envy. I think, frankly, politicians in particular they have a very great understanding that envy is an amazing way to get people out to the polls, like really an amazing way. Or if you're a dictator, being envious of the neighboring country is an amazing way to get people really, really motivated, and so you can channel.
So you basically just told us that, what if I told y'all on this platform, family, they don't want to save the country, they just want to be celebrities? He just admitted it. It's a popularity contest. How many of those believable lies can I sell to the people to get their vote? He just said it. Likewise, Ben, this occurs to y'all too. Y'all will say the most outrageous shit to get the most hits, but you don't believe what you're saying. I guarantee you, if I caught this man in public and asked him, do you really think George Floyd died of an overdose? He's going to tell me no. Because there's no way as a human being and as a lawyer, you would sit there and say he died of an overdose with a video. Because he was the same one during the pandemic laughing at police reports and coroner reports that said that somebody might have died in a car accident and said that them hospitals were writing C-19 on it. And he was going off. But now when George Floyd comes, now all of a sudden he died of an overdose, even though you saw the cop kill him? Oh, okay. All right. I see why you're not a lawyer practicing anymore. I see it now. Continue, though. And look at Charlemagne over here, looking like a fool. All right. Go ahead, Charlemagne. For those who didn't see it. There goes Charlemagne. Damn it. There goes Charlemagne looking like a fool.
People's grievance into a belief that they should hand you power so that you can go and do things. And I don't think that's unique to one side of the political aisle at all. In fact, I think we see politicians do this legitimately all the time. And again, that doesn't mean that the people at sort of the bottom level of politics, the normal voter, doesn't have a grievance. The question that I think that we all ought to ask ourselves, and this is true everywhere from your personal life to politics, is whether that grievance is justified by the evidence, and what is the change that you would seek to make specifically that would actually rectify that grievance. Because I think that one of the dangers is that people have a grievance, they say, this thing is unfair, therefore the entire system is corrupt and we need to abolish the entire system. And one of the main differences between what G.K. Chesterton would call a conservative and somebody who's not conservative is that somebody who's not conservative, he famously uses this analogy, walks across a field, sees an old fence in a field, and says, I don't know why this fence is here, and immediately starts uprooting the fence. And a conservative, what I would say is somebody who's even commonsensical, forget the politics, looks at the fence, says, I probably should research why somebody put the fence here in the first place, and then maybe we remove the fence. And I think that as a society, we've gone directly to, let's just remove...
Wrong. I just wanted y'all to listen to how he was going to describe a conservative. Wrong. A conservative would look at that same fence and uproot it. What are you talking about? They would uproot it and then blame the person who put it there first. Because I know he's going to try to say, oh, conservative would fix it just to show how benevolent they are. Wrong. The conservative would take that same fence, go down to the county office and look up the records, dock somebody, and then go over them and like, why did you put this there? Just to show how concerned they were. Because they're secretly liberals. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Every fence because I'm angry at what's happening in my life. And you're going to throw a lot of babies out with a very small amount of bathwater.
What about if that fence, though, has been blocking the person that decides that wants to remove it from whatever's on the other side for like years and generations, and whatever's on the other side they actually need it to live, survive, thrive. So then they want to remove it, regardless of why it was originally put there.
Yeah, so as I say, I think that there are definitely fences that need to be removed. And what I've said my entire career is if you can show me a fence that is actually blocking people from success, then I'll join you in trying to uproot that fence. But I need like an exact and specific explanation for why there is this cause and effect and how removing the fence isn't going to do less damage than leaving the fence in place, because there are unintended consequences to changing public policy. And obviously, this doesn't mean public policy should remain unchanging. There are tons of public policies that I think should be changed all over the place. This is an argument against change. It's an argument in favor of caution and also in favor of us all kind of being reflective about why we are doing the things that we're doing. Meaning, are we doing this because I have a problem in my life that I just don't want to solve, and so it's easier to blame sort of a shadowy system where I can't name the specific problem? Or do I have a problem that really I should try solving first before I start kind of wrecking the system? By the way, this is a good rule.
Wrong. Again. I love how he's trying to platform himself to be this great thinker. Sir, you conservatives all day complain about the problem and you never fix it. Until somebody or a whole bunch of people put enough kicks in your ass to get you to move. Again, the transgenders in women's sports were a problem for years. You didn't care about it until that girl in Connecticut said something. And you figured out that you can make money off of it, and you silenced her and took over the conversation. She could barely get an interview on that. Y'all love to talk about there's so much crime in here, but you conservatives, which, number one, are dominated by white conservatives, if we're going by race, y'all won't fix the white on white crime problem. What do? You focus on black people. That's not going to end the crime problem. Maybe if y'all talk to your communities and got rid of white crime, you'd have more resources. More resources would be distributed. He really thinks you're going to stop a landslide by taking out one of the smallest rocks. Digging the smallest ditches. I tell you they dumb, but again, they platform them. But go ahead. By the way, everybody in this comment section that was agreeing with Ben Shapiro, they think you're dumb.
Well, again, for life, there's a great book called Good to Great about business, and in which the author, his name Jim Collins, talks about the difference between successful business leaders and unsuccessful business leaders, and he calls it the difference between mirror people and window people. And what he says is that successful business leaders, they have a problem and they look in the mirror. They say, what can I change? What can I do to make this better? And unsuccessful people, they have a problem and they look at the window and they say, what out there is making it so that it's impossible for me to succeed? Again, that's not an argument that sometimes there is something outside the window, but
There's a combination of
y'all conservatives do that every day. But y'all want to say black people always complain about the system. Well, yeah, the system's a problem, but y'all think the system isn't a problem until the system visits you, and then the system's a problem. Now you want to fix it. Maybe you should listen to the people first. Oh, y'all talking about be a victor, not a victim. Okay, well, the victims have the first-hand knowledge. They're trying to help you. Huh. Now they're complaining that the victors are getting all the backlash. I wonder why. Huh.
Both.
For sure, but I think that as human beings, our first move should be, particularly in the freest, most prosperous country, literally in the history of planet Earth, our first move should be for most of our problems, not all, but most of our problems should be like, what can I do differently to fix my life? Because I think the most energizing aspect of being an American is the idea that you actually do have the capacity to change your life. And I think that any politics that is rooted in this feeling of enervation and kind of like marinating, and nothing I do can get me ahead, nothing I do is going to change where I am. And I think in the vast majority of cases, that really is not true. I think in the vast majority of cases, we can all make better decisions that change our lives.
Yeah, I think there's you talk about this in the book a lot. I think there's a difference between practicing victimhood and actually being a victim. You know, you're a Jewish person, I'm a black man. We've actually been victims of a system.
Yes, I mean, well, and again, I think that those systems can be changed. But I think that it is very important that we, again, I think it's a great distinction between actual victimhood, because you can name times when you've been a victim, and you can name the systems that have made you a victim and how they've made you a victim. And the more specific we are, the more we can agree. I found that in politics, where the big disagreements tend to happen are at the very abstract level. When you get down to the material and you say, okay, you know, this guy is a bad guy, and this person just did X to me. Like, well, okay, that person should be arrested, right? I mean, we all agree that person should be arrested, or what just happened is really bad, and we should change this specific thing. But again, I think that the goal in a lot of politics is what's called semantic overload. You use terms that can be differentially interpreted by both sides to sort of signal to one side one thing and signal to one side the other thing. Black Lives Matter is a great example of this. Where Black Lives Matter, obviously that's true. Obviously it's true that Black Lives Matter, but what do you mean by Black Lives Matter? And so one side will read from that, we're just saying that black people should be treated exactly the same as anybody else and should not be systemically discriminated against. And the other side will read from it, what you're saying is that black people deserve some special privileges, or you're making the argument that America is deeply and systemically racist, and every discrepancy between black people and white people in outcome is due to the system. Right? And it means,
Oh my God. He just figured it out. Yes, Ben, you're a lawyer, sir. You know how racist the law is towards black people. Now, come on. I tell you this, these conservatives, boy. These were the same conservatives who say that we complain too much about how the system fucked up, but in 2020, that Jersey Shore gym owner was getting fucked with by the system, and they were out there saying that he should stand tall and giving him money and all that. Oh, so you agree then the system was fucked up? We tell y'all how they were launching bioweapons against the populace for years, dropping bombs on black neighborhoods. You didn't want to hear none of that shit. Okay, you told motherfuckers to get over Tulsa. All right, and then what happened? That motherfuckers dropped a bioweapon in this country, and y'all were out there complaining every day that your rights were being violated. Oh, so now you agree that the system's fucked up. Y'all want to talk about BLM rioters going outside, getting arrested, and being let out with no bail, and these politicians and celebrities letting them out, and you saying, oh, that's fucked up. But then January 6th comes, and y'all ran in a building you weren't even supposed to be in, and a motherfucker caught Fed charges. And y'all wanted to sit up there and complain until Trump gave everybody a pardon. But between that time, you said how the system fucked up. Now you want to tell us that the system is fucked up. Oh, y'all are complaining about what's going on in Charlotte right now, saying the media not covering it because that wasn't a black person. Oh, if it was a black person that got it from white people, it would be all over the news. There'd be riots all over the place. Well, I guess you just figured out that the system is fucked up. I swear to Christ, I'm telling you, and it's funny they keep getting money every day, saying this dumb shit. George Bush got to pay for his crimes, boy.
both of those things, but it depends on who's using it and how. And so being very specific in how we use our words and asking clarifying questions like, what do you mean by that? Can you be
The money, they don't hate BLM. They never did. They just saw a way to monetize the hate.
more specific? Is a better way to do politics. It's the conversation we were just having about genocide.
Yeah.
Let's define what genocide means, and then we can actually determine whether we think that is a thing that is happening, whether there's intent to do it. If we just say genocide and kind of throw that out there, and people were saying that word, for example, October 8th, like before Israel had even responded, then if you do that, then all you end up doing is making the conversation dumber and everybody more angry.
And you know what's interesting about that?
But that's what y'all do every day.
Usually tend to see both sides, meaning like I can understand why people say it's a genocide, but then you're not going to say this is just us defending ourselves, and it's an act of war. And as you said, there's a lot of casualties, civilian casualties that happen in acts of war. But you don't really know that if you don't talk to people on both sides.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. And again, I think that genocide in that particular context, there are words that people use to express outrage that don't necessarily, the definition doesn't fit up with the word. I think when people say genocide, generally what they mean is, I'm very angry at what's happening and I wish it would stop. And so they throw out genocide because it's the worst thing they can think of. Because if you say that, then maybe Israel should stop. And you know, again, I think that you can empathize with that because I think everybody wants this to stop, including, by the way, the Israelis, who would love for Hamas to surrender their weapons, stop, walk away, and the war ends. I mean,
Another conservative advocating for gun control. Why should Hamas give up their guns? Now, I know they're not under our Constitution, but I just want to ask a question. Why should Hamas give up their guns? You hear what he said? Not lay down their guns. Give up their guns. So you want them even more in a victim setting. How does that make them a victor, sir? And I'm not caping for Hamas. I'm just trying to tell y'all a story. Explain this to me. Because there would be no scenario on God's green earth we were in a war getting our ass kicked and the other side tells us, hey, give up your guns and we'll stop. You think we're going to stop? Hell no. But this is them folk. And I'm not talking about Jewish people. I'm talking about white folk. This is them white folk. They didn't think Hamas was going to stand up there and give them the business. Now they're like, hey, just lay down, just give up your guns and, we'll stop. Yeah, all right, motherfucker. Go ahead, Ben. Let somebody tell you to give up your guns in your house. Let me see what you're going to tell them. Dickhead.
I promise you that in Israel, where they're drafting every 18-year-old kid in Israel goes to the military, and they've been doing this for generations. That is not something that anyone wants to do. That's not something where it's like you wake up in the morning at 18, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to go, I really, really want to go patrol in Jenin. Like, nobody is doing that over there. Like, everybody would love for this thing to come to an end.
So go do it!
I think that using words imprecisely is the enemy of agreement and truth.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, I get, yeah. I
You hear him?
Like, you could get caught up in just arguing that as opposed to arguing, hey, all of this is fucked up.
Yes, and what's the solution then? Yeah. Right, what's the solution? Yeah. How do we get to the end of it? Because once you actually...
There's no end to it because they're going to pop off. As soon as they stop, it's going to pop off again in 5 years. Let them have their country. The fuck? All this shit stops when Palestine goes back to the Palestinians. Just do the two-state solution. If that don't work, then okay, you can go boo-boo everybody in the face. But y'all scared of the two-state solution because Palestinians would have authority in the UN, more authority, and they would stop a lot of the bullshit that you're doing. And the U.S. can't have that because a lot of the world is on the Palestinian side. But, we're not going to go there today. I've already done it. I'm not going to go there today. Ben knows nothing, by the way.
Actually start clarifying that stuff, you realize what a difficult situation this is. I think that very often, because politics is difficult and complex, in order to avoid the conversation of how should we solve this, which is a hard conversation and sometimes a boring conversation, it's much more fun to discuss, is it genocide, is it not genocide? Do Black lives matter? Is it all lives matter? Right? Like, it's more fun and interesting and spicy conversation than what are these specific things that a police department should do in order to, for example, prevent police excesses. Right? That's like a very specific conversation, and it usually ends up at a city council meeting, right? But in the business that we're all in, where we're talking about these issues, it is much easier to do diagnostics of the problem in broad terms than to do actual prognosis. Like, well, what do we do next? What's the thing we should all pursue in order to...
Motherfucker, we do that every day. Y'all ignore it. We give y'all the solutions. You say stop doing crime. Okay, we're giving you the solution to stop doing crime. Nah, that's not going to work. Okay, fine. If you think it doesn't work, give us the resources. We'll show you it works. No, that's not how the system works. Oh, I get it. You want your solution to work, or you want to take our solution. So that when it works, you could take the credit, and when it doesn't work, you can blame us. Both sides of the argument.
Fix the problem.
I saw you getting caught up in that a little bit on Abby Phillips, though, when y'all were debating about
I think it was Chicago, DC.
yeah, with this
Mhm.
petition, some
Chicago.
people saying, hey, we approve of what was it, the crime, the way that they're reducing the way that they're reducing crime in DC.
Yes.
By having the troops on.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that the question as to whether the crime has been reduced by National Guard troops on the ground in DC.
The crime
Oh
was
my
never reduced
God.
prior to that.
It was, and then it was reduced more. And so the question is.
So that there was no.
the answer
So, sir, if it was already reduced, there was no point in him going in there. Hey, MAGA, this is the person y'all listening to when he don't say something pro-Israel. This is who y'all listen to. So crime is down. That motherfucker sent more troops in there. Your justification is crime went down more? Okay, now when they leave, it goes back to the number it was before. Then what? You're going to say crime is on the rise? Jesus Christ. I really need November 3rd, 2026 to come. I really do. I need all these people off the board. We got to get some fresh voices. This is insane. And look at Charlemagne. Charlemagne, how are you allowing this? Never mind. We know why.
In places they don't do as many crimes. The question is whether that can be an indefinite solution in Washington, D.C. And that's also a very different question between Washington, D.C. and Chicago. One of the things that came up very briefly in that Abby Phillips panel was what should be done in Chicago. And one of the things that I said is I don't think that the president has the authority to just send the National Guard into Chicago to actually just police crime. Right? That is illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act. Right? There are things.
But you don't care because you get to do content off of it. Just like you and your right wingers are running around posting up videos of gang members saying don't come to Chicago because y'all gonna get laid down, and using that as a justification that, yeah, Trump should go to Chicago because you have active elements telling you that we're gonna come see you. But y'all are justifying what he's doing in Venezuela and Mexico right now. We're sending troops there to go see cartels. So y'all are pissed off that American citizens are telling their president, do not send the military that we fund after us. But y'all are cool with him invading 2 countries with drones. So he can justify saying he's not putting troops on the ground to stop a problem that you can legislate. I think I got that right.
Things he can do legally that, like, for example, protect ICE facilities, which is what they were allegedly doing in California. One of the things that I think the president is doing that's actually quite smart now is he's shifting to red states. So yesterday he announced that he might not do Chicago after all. He might instead do New Orleans and Shreveport, which is smart because he can do that with the permission of the governor, right? The governor is a red state governor.
Yeah, but the only problem with that, though, is he's going to go.
Oh, now he's switching to Shreveport and New Orleans. Let me hear this.
To these red states and probably going to these cities that have black mayors and large black populations and over-police them.
Well,
and that's not what those cities or towns need. Like, those cities and towns need actual resources because, as you just said, these are like temporary solutions for a long-term systemic problem.
Well, so I think they need both, and I think that when it comes to crime, and New York City is a great example of this, you actually need to lower the crime rates to draw investment. Right? One of the big problems with investing.
Oh, good God! Oh my God! He did not just say that. Did this? Okay. Come here, Benjamin. Let me help you. I'm from New York City, born and raised. Sir, we had some of the worst crime in the country, and Fortune 500 companies were building hella skyscrapers and office buildings there. Hell, in the mid-2010s, New York crime started to go up. Guess what? JetBlue put their headquarters in Queens. Crime was so high in New York Amazon said, you know what? I don't care how high the crime is in New York. We're going to build a facility in Long Island City. We're going to employ 25,000 people. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create income for this state, regardless of it being New York City, aka Gotham, Sodom and Gomorrah, whatever you want to call it. Look, I'll give you the flip side, Ben, since you want to talk about the crime rate being down. You're correct. That happens, but it depends on the situation. It's called gentrification. That's how they can justify it. We all know how bad Brooklyn was. They gentrified it. Now that's everybody and their mama's restaurants in Brooklyn. Everybody and their mama office is in Brooklyn. It's going to get to a point now Brooklyn ain't going to have no room. Your city's name attracts the investment. Go to any one of them council meetings. I've done it before. You would be shocked how many corporations have bills there looking for permits to go build. And their workers are taking all the risk going home. They don't care. Chicago still gets investment, and they have, how y'all said it, 400 murders a year, and they still getting investment.
Is that people don't want to do it. They're afraid that if they take their money, they put it into a grocery store, and there's a lot of shoplifting in that area, then the store goes out of business.
That's not the kind of investment I'm talking about. Economic opportunity, job training programs. I'm talking about small business investment, early intervention programs. I'm talking about proper mental health services. Those are the type of investments I'm talking about.
I'm not anti any of those things.
People in the community.
Right. No, I agree with that. But if you're talking about like how a community actually grows and thrives and becomes self-sustaining, it can't do it off public dollars indefinitely. And so you do need an enormous amount of private investment to make areas better. Right. This is what actually
He just advocated for gentrification.
About opportunity zones. Right. Originally, this was the idea that was put forth by the Trump administration in Trump administration number 1, that there would be particular areas where basically there would be tax incentives to invest in these areas. It's definitely an interesting idea. I think the reality is that you may not need that if the crime rates get low enough. And so the goal would be that you lower the crime rates enough so that people feel comfortable investing their own private dollars in building businesses.
No. You bring the crime rate down by over-policing, so the city council can go to these corporations and say, see, we can lower the crime anytime we want. Would you like to invest here? And then push the people out. But here's the kicker that Ben don't want to tell you. As soon as they do that and build it up, what happens? Crime goes right back up. But them companies already locked in. Now they have the local boards. When them companies want to pull out, they talk about they're going to sue them. Because they use their monthly rent to fund what they do in those areas. But again, Benjamin ain't going to tell you that. Benjamin, all y'all are doing is putting a cover on a boiling pot of pasta. Guess what's going to happen?
In these areas, providing jobs in these areas, because again, as somebody who invests, a fair bit, I would rather invest in a low crime area than a high crime area. That's not a racial thing. That is just a basic investment procedure, right? If you're going to set up a store, you're going to set up a store in a place where it's less likely.
Oops. He's wrong again. So why are Puerto Ricans always showing up in black neighborhoods and Hispanic neighborhoods where there's high crime? Oops. I just said it 5 minutes ago. Brooklyn had so much crime, but they had to gentrify it to attract the business. And guess what? The businesses are up there and they're still high crime. Oops. According to y'all. Mm. They swear they're so intricate and free thinking, and the basics they just don't get. It's the logic they don't get. Oh, by the way, Ben, since you live in Florida, tell us why all the MAGA idiots ran down to Florida and the crime rate didn't drop. Oops.
To be robbed.
What if the government investing in mentorship and after school programs, mental health and addiction services? Like, to me, like, those are the type of things you have to change the people in a community, as opposed to just putting a bunch of
You hear what he just said?
a bunch of businesses there. There's still a bunch of poor and disenfranchised people, not just financially but emotionally and mentally, spiritually. That's not going to change it.
Well, I mean, I think that the government has spent an awful lot of money and taken an awful lot of time with things like mentorship and after-school programs. I think the results are at best mixed from the social science data. The best studies that I've seen on this, there's a great study by Roland Fryer over at Harvard, in which he talked about what we really, mentorship is definitely a thing. You definitely need more men in communities, and they don't necessarily have to be the fathers of the kids. You need more. What the study shows.
So why do you keep taking them out? Why did y'all chair Detroit 300 losing funding? Why did you chair the Memphis group losing funding? Damn.
That even kids of single moms who are growing up in communities with high levels of male involvement did fine. They did well. Where you really have a problem is where there are not enough male models, particularly for young males, because young males tend to be significantly more disruptive to the community when they don't have dads than young females. There are real problems with
But y'all cheering them listening to Andrew Tate and Red Pillars.
Than it is for young men tend to externalize that in the form of crime, for example. And so, I think that one of the things that I've also talked about is that government, and this is where you get into the law of unintended consequences. When government intervenes in a lot of these ways, it tends to supplant some of the actual organic institutions that used to do this sort of thing. So I'm a big advocate.
Wow.
I just think that sometimes they lack funding. Like, there's, for every problem that we're talking about, I promise you there's an organization in every single community that caters to that, but they just lack funding in the life.
Well, I think that's true. I also think that the number one institution that used to help solve these problems was church. And as levels of church going go down, that is a major problem. Because the nice thing about a church is that when a church or synagogue or any other religious institution gives charity, then there's also skin in the game for the person who's receiving the charity. Right? You actually have to buy into the system in order to receive the charity to a certain extent, because you're a member of the community. You also know the person who you're receiving the money from. That person is a person you sit next to in the pews. And so government can't really be a substitute for that, just in terms of like cutting a check.
Okay, cutting a check, you hearing? Now I know y'all perked up. This is when he started talking about reparations. Cutting a check. Sir, churches are fraud. No. Fuck it, it's Tuesday. Churches are fraud organizations, sir. I'm talking about the ones today. They're frauds. Sir, I put up videos and articles of synagogues defrauding. I can go find right now a temple defrauding. They prey on the people nowadays. That's why attendances for churches have gone down the last 30 years. And it's not just the men. You don't need the church.
And so I do like, this is something that Bush and Obama and other presidents have done, was trying to do a private-public partnership with, for example, churches to ensure they have the funding to do this sort of stuff. But there does need to be
Why are you giving churches the funding?
The social value of getting together in places that are not online. I think the internet's done an awful lot of damage. I think that the atomization of our society, where everybody kind of sits in their own room, they never get together with other people, is really, really, really bad. And I'm in a very involved synagogue community. And one of the beautiful things about a highly involved synagogue or church community is that a lot of the lines that we talk about go away. And this is what Robert Putnam, again, Harvard scholar and not on my side of the political aisle, has said. He says that if you actually want to build social fabric in community, what you need is a common goal, and you need people getting together like in person, socially. And that's what churches tend to do. And that's really, really important. I don't think that any sort of government, artificial alternative is going to be able to do all of those things.
Community.
Yes, community.
How about your politicians that y'all vote for? They have to do a monthly meeting. They go back to their district and have a monthly meeting. Oh, right. I mean, you paying them out of your tax money, but they can't come see their district every month. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And some bitches could take 3 weeks off for vacation. Huh. Okay.
And this is where I get back to, like, these are all choices that we can make personally, right? We can make the choice, like today, whether we want to go to church on Sunday, right? We can all make that choice, right? And when it comes to our relationships, we can all make the choice as to whether we would like, I mean, with rare exceptions, obviously there are, but most people can make the choice as to whether to get pregnant out of wedlock. I mean, like, these are choices that we all can make, and then we need to teach our kids, because if we do that, then their lives
You
will be
hear
better.
him?
If we do that, then their lives will be worse.
And you believe in banning abortion, right?
You hear him? He would never say this in front of white folk.
Yes.
Even in cases of incest and rape?
Yes. Because this is a sort of a fundamental definitional question. If you believe life begins at conception, then regardless of the source of the life, it now has an independent interest in life. So that is not to minimize the tremendous evil of rape or incest. I believe rape should be executed.
You just justified it, sir.
Castrated at best. But that's sort of a different question from the independent source of life and what this, again, it gets back to definitions. And this conversation tends to be either you're on one side of that or the other. If you don't believe life begins at conception, then obviously you believe abortion is acceptable in a wide variety of circumstances. If you believe it's an independent life deserving of protection, then you believe it's an independent life deserving of protection.
Well, what do you think about that?
I think that a woman should be able to choose to do what she wants to do.
So hold on. So Ben, you have documented historical proof that there's been abortions in these big ass societies that tended to lean, as y'all say, to conservative values, and nobody said a word about it. Now you want to play moral high ground. I tell you, these conservatives are fake as. Never mind. Go ahead.
Do wherever she decides to do it. I personally believe that women should be able to abort babies if they want to, if they feel like that's what they need to do.
Do you have a time limit on that, out of curiosity?
I mean, I think it should happen earlier on if it were me making a decision for myself, but I think it's up to the woman and what she's personally experiencing and what she personally went through. I really think it's a per person thing. That's why I think it's crazy when you have like these structures and these like people who are not in that situation making the decision for the woman what you can and can't do, because it's very like per person. My situation might be different than another woman who's next to me.
Right. So again, this is sort of the definitional issue that we're talking about, because you're talking about what a woman should be allowed to do. And what I'm talking about is the definition of personhood of the separate person inside the woman. I think that what I push on is why do you personally believe that women should have an abortion earlier?
I think and from personal experience, I've been in a situation. I just think emotionally and mentally, it's less that you think about, but it does depend on how you think of when the life is formed, or should be looked at as like a life that you.
Right. So that I think is the big question, and that's where the disconnect is.
But what I'm saying is that's always going to be different for each person.
But I don't think that the subjective definition of life is how we define life. Meaning that you being uncomfortable with a woman having an abortion in the 9th month, you're saying that just because you're uncomfortable with it, that doesn't mean that you should stop a woman from doing that. My point is that life has a definition. Right? We all agree, for example, that a 1-month-old baby should not be drowned. Right? We all agree on that, and that's not up to the personal. Should not be drowned. You shouldn't take a baby and drown in a bathtub. Right? And the question is, well, why? Because we now understand that the 1-month-old baby, everyone agrees with this, right? That except for Peter Singer at Princeton, that a 1-month-old baby has an independent interest in life. Right? That is a life that is separate from the woman and requires protection. Okay, so if it is a life, then we now have an objective definition. It doesn't matter what the state of mind of the woman is. It doesn't matter if she thought, you know what, I have a really tough life. My life will be better off if this baby is drowned. I don't have to deal with this baby, and so I'm going to drown the baby. The baby has an independent, actual interest in living. And so the question becomes, is that true before birth? And I think for the vast majority of Americans are actually somewhere where you are practically, meaning that the vast majority of Americans do see in sort of a soft way a distinction between the early stages of life, month 2, and 9 months. Right, like the approval in America of abortion at the very late stages is very, very low, because most Americans.
It starts around like 4 or 5 months for most people, right?
Well, I mean, most abortions are performed in the first trimester.
Yeah.
Yes, but the point that I'm making is that the logic that you're using allows for abortion like literally right before the baby is born. And so then the question becomes, why is that okay? And it's not a woman's choice at that point whether that is a life or not, because you don't get to artificially or subjectively define the meaning of things.
We're playing with semantics.
Yeah, that's what
it's not semantic. Either it's a life or it's not a life, right?
Your daughter was raped.
No,
it's almost like you're saying she's raped, and I'm gonna make her have this child.
No, I mean,
because you're saying you don't believe in abortion, even if rape and incest, right?
What I'm saying there is that I don't believe in abortion in cases of rape and incest. The practical effect is horrible. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that it is not emotionally horrifying that particular situation. The question is whether it has an independent interest in life or not, and whether there's a third party involved. If you don't believe there's a third party deserving of protection, I totally get it. I get it. But we should understand that that's the actual conversation. The actual conversation is about whether you believe that this is an interested third party being. Do you get to kill that interested third party being, this human life with potential, or do you not? If you, and so the actual argument that I don't like is
He's boring me. Come on, let's get to the show. You're boring me.
And your definition of a heartbeat, somewhere between 6 and 10 weeks, right? Very, very, very early. And so if that is now an independent interest, you're talking about abortion restrictions very early on. And so that's why, a lot of red states have signed heartbeat laws, for example. And so, again, I think that the clarity is good, right? Because now we can have a conversation. Where do you think life begins? And that's a better conversation than the sort of...
Fine, Ben, you want to play that game? Let's play that game. Here's a better conversation you guys should have instead of talking to black people about abortion, because this is the same thing that the Democrats did during the election cycle. Why don't y'all go to y'all white progeny and tell them to stop having unprotected sex in college and then having abortions? I think that would be a better conversation. I love how all these political pundits love to go to these black areas and these black enclaves and start talking about abortion. Go to your communities and go talk about abortion. Why don't y'all have the conversations why your daughters keep passing around abortion pills to each other or stealing them from your wives? Ooh. Let me not go there. I'm going to be quiet. Let me let it go.
Assumption by, I think, people who are not pro-life, that pro-life is just about controlling the woman's body. No, it isn't, okay?
Yes, it is.
Like for pro-lifers, it has literally nothing to do.
Wrong. You guys hate women.
With the woman's body. It has to do with the independent interest of the life inside the woman and how you define that.
But once you define it, depending on your definition, it does control what a woman can and can't do with her body.
Well, there are downstream effects to definitions, of course, right? I mean, if I define life as it begins at a heartbeat, then that is going to have public policy ramifications that affect...
Scott, wrong. You guys don't talk about it. So why are there so many high rates of college white girls having abortions if you talk about it? Huh. Oh, here we go. Sir, if you hate black women, then you don't need to be here. Go rant and rave about them on Twitter. I'm sure you'll go viral. But you just proved my point. You don't give a shit about your women. You give a shit about somebody else's woman. Thank you for proving my point. Sir, we already do that, Scott. That's why the abortion rate for black people has been going down, but y'all don't want to bring that up now, do you? You don't want to bring up the fact that there's more black kids being born into a two-parent household, but just because they're not married to the government, you think it doesn't exist. That's why they're still running around with that 75% number. The number's actually around 41. But they won't bring that up. But again, y'all are not having them conversations with your women because every time we go to these college campuses, we look at those numbers that they release from these medical offices, and there's high rates of abortion. There's women coming outside in their 20s talking about how they had an abortion in college. They're saying it. Y'all are not having them conversations because they keep repeating it every year. Huh.
If I define theft in a particular way, that's going to have downstream effects on people who commit that definition.
We'll use this one now.
And if I broaden the definition, it's going to include more people. And that's true for literally any legal term. It's true for any word that we use in life. As you expand the definition, it affects more people in different ways. But that doesn't change the necessity to have the conversation about what the definition is.
So go have the conversation.
To basically say, well, I have a definition of life, but and it gets into very dicey territory because historically people have defined away entire populations as not human, and so we can't do that, right? Like you really don't want people looking at other people and saying, well, I don't think that this person. To take the obvious and most controversial example, for a huge percentage of American history, there was a wide variety of people in America who believed black people were not fully human, and therefore you couldn't associate. Right, correct. So was that a subjective question? That was not a subjective question. Black people are fully human and just as human as white people equal the same, right? Like and so if somebody were to say, listen,
Sir, we're not the same as white people. Stop. Oh, jeez. Ben Shapiro, we're not the same as white people. We're not. Just like we're not the same as Hispanics. Just like we're not the same as Asians. We're not the same people. You just complained about Black Lives Matter. Now you're playing All Lives Matter, but you complained about All Lives Matter earlier. Oh my God. Here we go with that conservative, we're all the one race, the human race BS. Sir, if that was the case, then y'all would be leaving us alone. They don't get it. We all have differences. That's what makes us unique. Just like you're a Jewish white man. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Live your white Jewish life. Leave black people alone. Talk about your community. Because I can tell you right now, 99% of black content creators, we don't talk about white people at the same rate y'all be talking about black people. We can talk about anything and make it pop. That's why you go on TikTok and you see them creators out there. They just talking about anything. They creating anything. They doing their dumbass skits. And they getting views upon views upon views upon views. What do y'all do? Outrage content. And look how quick it took y'all to get off the government and what they were doing because some Ukrainian white woman got stabbed up. Now y'all back to what y'all was talking about in 2019. This country is in a free fall right now. And the first thing, like he said, you should think about solutions to get us out of these problems. The first thing you do is start talking about black people. Now there you go. TB, he's not white. So what is he? I don't think you think he's black just because he raps some lyrics. Is he not white? Let me help you. 97.3% of Jewish people write white and identify as white on the census. That was in 2010. Huh. Okay.
personally am anti-slavery. I think that slavery is personally wrong, but it's really up to every person to define for themselves whether
this nigga fam, this here we go. If he would never say this in front of white people. Go say it again.
the same, right? Like and so if somebody were to say, listen, I personally am anti-slavery, right? I think that slavery is personally wrong, but it's really up to every person to.
How do you say slavery is wrong, but? How do you say slavery is bad, but? How? Sir, Scott, okay, great. If you think that, then you just proved my point again. If you think we affect your community, stop talking about us. Insulate yourself. Teach your kids. Teach them what to look for. Stop worrying about us. Damn. Y'all get pissed at us when we try to teach our kids, hey, you know what? Yes, by and large, this world is a beautiful place to live and a beautiful place to grow up in. But there's going to be a-holes out there that are not going to like you for some of the most minute details. You got to watch out for that. You over here telling me that our community affects your community. Trust me, that sounds like victimhood. We understand that there is a collection of people that don't want black people to rise up in this country. We teach our kids that, but we don't teach them to live in fear. Y'all, what you just wrote is telling me that you're living in fear. Teach your kid not to live in fear, not to be scared of the big black people. Damn. Did we say there was anything wrong with bringing up the race of that gentleman? There's pictures. There's nothing wrong with it. That was a tragedy. The problem is when you get each side trying to promote it for themselves. That's when it becomes a problem. Because this is the same group that's seen white people get killed by black people and vice versa all over the place. Fine, have the conversation. But then it becomes a problem when you start saying, oh, black people are the most violent people in the country. When we damn sure know that ain't the case. Because we can go to the FBI stats and guess who's leading in damn near every category. But then when we do that, we get shadow man and we get say, oh, it's per capita. Well, okay, per capita, you guys still around. So what's up? Go handle your community. Leave us alone. Huh. People are obsessed with us. I don't know why. Leave us alone. If we're going to kill ourselves, let us kill ourselves. But I guarantee if black people are wiped out of this country, guess what? Crime is still going to be high. Ain't that something? TB, that's even white MAGA is starting to figure out that's some bullshit stat. Cool. So you want to play that game? Scott, this is not an indictment on you, but I'm just going to use this. Okay, if you want to play that 1350, then white people are 61% of the population but commit 79% of the rapes. I think y'all need to address that first. And rape is a violent crime, but you know. We can do that too. And by the way, the number's not over half. I need you to get from 2019 and come down to the rest of us in 2025. Because that number is actually under 50%. But I figured a name with TB, tuberculosis, I figured you would have maybe put that in DuckDuckGo and see if that was true. Maybe. You could even have asked Grok. But y'all gonna tell me Grok woke. But that's okay. That's okay. You had your name is tuberculosis. You are under the weather. It messes with your brain. I understand. Y'all commit the most arsons in the country. Why y'all playing with flames still? Come on. You know how hot fire is. Come on now. Why do y'all still do that? Why are y'all committing grand larceny? I understand the economy's bad, but goddamn. Y'all got credit cards. You could just open a credit card. Y'all commit the most armed robberies in this country. Well, damn. So y'all got money because you got the weapon. You just got to save it a little bit more. See, I told you he was going to bring up per capita. Hey, guess what? Per capita also means that you guys suck too. Do you want to play that per capita game with me? See? What did I tell y'all, family? They use per capita so they don't have to deal with their own crime issues. You see what I'm talking about? Now, per capita, you guys do the most espionage in this country. Now, do you want me to go there? Per capita, you guys are the biggest traitors in this country. Do you want me to go there? I don't think you want me to go there. Per capita, you do the most incest in the country. I don't think you want me to go there. You do the most molestations in this country. I don't think you want me to go there. Because see, unlike y'all just look up stats from your favorite influencer and repost their memes. We actually do this research here. Per capita, you guys are the worst. But I figured. You let a bunch of racist pages tell you that, who made up graphs or got it from Substacks. I understand. Per capita, and then we'll go back to the video. Per capita, you guys are the biggest Zionists in the country, but nobody goes after you. But I see what y'all doing with Brandon Tatum. Now that's nasty.
Define for themselves whether a black person is fully human or not fully human.
Sir, I think you, sir, ma'am, or it, we don't discriminate over it. I think you need to go get the FBI crime stats, come back to me. And if you bring me 2019, you're going to get blocked. Because they've updated it 4 times since then. I need y'all to come into reality. You've just proven my point again. By the way, screenshot. That is a crazy look from old Ben Shapiro. Look, that's a crazy look. We might change it. That fool said Zion. He started laughing because I said Zion is. Yes, you guys per capita are the biggest Zionists in the country. But okay. All right. He said any white Zionist is ignorant. Then you need to go see him. You need to go see Charlie Kirk. You want me to keep going? All right.
I don't think you can compare
What the-
those two things.
What?
Just because I think, if I'm making, so if you're a slave master, right, and you say, I believe slavery is right because black people aren't human.
Yes, we're talking about crime stats, and per capita, white people are the worst people on earth.
What the slaves can do for you on your property. Like
Now you want to go there.
What slavery will do for that slave master is so different than if a woman has to have a baby because she was raped.
Oh, fine. Screw it. I'll say it. Hey, how come y'all letting the per capita South Asians whoop y'all ass right now? Oops. Before you discuss anything about black people, y'all got per capita Muslims right now in Texas giving y'all the business. Don't talk to us. We over there waiting for Beyonce's rock album to come out. Go deal with the Muslims down there in Dallas. Go deal with the Muslims over there in the UK giving y'all the business. Tommy Robinson needs help. Sir, your name is less knowledge. We're the most impressive nation of collection of people on earth. See, they're not imitating y'all where they go in these other countries. They don't imitate y'all. They imitate us. I get it, though. You can go to certain countries and they'll revere you because of your skin. They not looking to you for their culture. Korea built $1 billion plus industry off fried chicken. They didn't get it from y'all. They got it from black folks. Japan has a whole subculture of dancehall music they got from Jamaicans. It's gotten so bad now in Japan, their animes are starting to have more black people being featured. And they're leaning more to an Asian aesthetic with their characters and getting away from the white character look. Oops. Looks like your global influence is waning. But again, y'all worried about black people too much. Go worry about setting up a culture that your progeny can be proud of. Because even then, they're starting to race mix. If you don't believe me, come to Atlanta one time. We'll go in Midtown. You'll see how many mixed race couples of white people you'd see. You'd be shocked. And we're in the South. You better stop. That fool brought me Thomas Sowell. We've already debunked that man. Now give me somebody else. And he's been so debunked that even the white conservatives don't even bring him up no more. Unless they're talking to black people. Thomas Sowell is a clown. There's literal white YouTubers right now going through his book saying how much of his economic and social stances are BS. Answer me this before we go back to the video, TB. Trump said months ago that he was going to give him a statue in the Rose Garden and a presidential medal of freedom. And notice, the second that video came out in February about Thomas Sowell knocking his tariffs plan, all that went away. Don't even hear about that no more. Y'all love Thomas Sowell because he talks about black people. No prominent economist quotes Thomas Sowell. None of them. They go to Richard Wolff. I get it though. You like low thinkers. I get it. You saw him kick a white man's ass on a debate. You thought he was great. Guess what? He's a sellout. And he not only took one, he took 2 white women off the board for y'all. 2. But y'all cool with that.
Affect her life like that. I think you have a decision that you can make a lot easier.
It's like you forced a woman twice, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
she's-
like,
He
you
stole
already-
his research. We proved it.
He has this baby, now she's forced
Well,
to
again,
have a
Try a
child.
Jewish analogy.
Sure. So sure. So if there was an entire population in Europe that was considered subhuman by the Nazis and they were exterminated, if you said, I am personally against the extermination of the Jews, but I understand why Germans could think the Jews are subhuman. And so, it really is up to every individual to determine whether a Jew is human or not fully human and can be put in the back of a van and gassed.
Uh-huh.
What in the world?
You're saying there should be no pro-choice.
Right.
Yeah, so the definitions are not a matter of choice. Definitions are a matter of actual objective fact. Otherwise, we can't even have a conversation. Because if words have meanings, then we all have to agree on at least that, right? That much we have to agree on is the meaning of the words. And when it comes to, so the slave master analogy, the point that I'm making here is not about the personal experience of the slave master. In fact, I'm saying it's completely irrelevant. What I'm saying is that the reason that slavery was wrong is because black people are fully independent human beings who require the protection of the law in the same way as everyone else. And if you're a pro-lifer, you believe that's also true of the unborn.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Wrong. See, here he goes. Sir, he is a race hustler. Y'all really don't know that man's history. I get it, though. I get it. Y'all just found out about this man in the mid-2010s. I get it. I get it. He wrote a book, Black Redneck, whatever he wrote, and said that black culture came from the bowels of England. I get it. Oh, you say he points out race hustlers and he's the biggest race hustler there is. The man literally sold out black Republicans to Reagan and Ed Meese and got Ed Meese a promotion because he attended the Fairmont Conference. And all of a sudden, the current black conservative was born in San Francisco in 1981. Got it. Got it. TB, he already kissed the wall before he got shot. He went over there in his first term and kissed the wall. But okay.
But I do wonder, how come pro-life people aren't anti-war?
Well, I mean,
Because if
I think everybody is anti-war. I think the question is the definition of when war is appropriate. I don't think, who's running around going like, war is awesome. Yes, more war,
Okay,
let's
so,
do it.
So 50,000 kids have been killed in Gaza because of this crime.
Now
It
what?
depends on the definitions.
There you go. I knew he was going to do it. Ben he just argued about abortion being wrong, but 50,000 kids getting killed in Gaza. What's the data? But y'all are real sure with that abortion data, though. I don't really care about this Gaza talk. Come on, let's get to the show. Where's the good stuff?
Illness. I've not said that about homosexuality. Homosexuality, and the reason that you can tell that is because gender identity disorder is making an actual false claim about the world.
Gender identity dysphoria.
Okay. Or that you feel like a woman, which is unverifiable. And so that is making a false claim about the world.
Okay, sir. Less knowledge. You do know Townsend participates in Black culture, right? Even though he said he was divorced from Black culture, right? The man loved Black culture so much he was sleeping on fire escapes in Harlem. The man loves Black culture so much he had his hair in afros. The man loves Black culture so much he uses AAVE every now and again. And here we go. See, when they don't have an argument, now it's the Jews' fault. Yeah, the Jews that ain't really around us like that. The greater populace of Black people really did a number on Black people. Okay. Because you know this, because you've been around Black people 24/7, 365. I get it. No, not everybody's hair grows into afros, sir. No. And this is why I say you don't know Black people. I would stop talking. You're living up to your name. I'm trying to help you get from less knowledge to more knowledge. I'm really trying to get you there, but you don't want to be receptive. Okay, continue.
Well, the homosexual person is making the claim that they are attracted to a person of the same sex, which is not a false claim about the world. They are. I assume. So the claim that I've made from a sort of religious perspective with regard to homosexuality is the same as the claim that I make with regard to virtually all human behavior, which
you mean like this?
Drives are not behavior, meaning that, so people ask me from a religious perspective. I'm obviously an Orthodox Jew, that's why I wear the funny hat, right? From a religious perspective, what do you make of homosexual activity? And I say,
same-sex marriages, raising kids.
Right, so I'm anti-same-sex marriage, but
you're anti-same-sex marriage
because I believe that the fundamental basis of the family.
He said I don't buy white hair wigs. What this be? That's a white hair wig and a mask. What that mean? We buy it when we need to troll y'all. See? When I need to troll y'all, I'll put this on. Is that what y'all think? When I have to go do my English accent, I put on my white powder wig. It's all good. We have fun with y'all because y'all are so easy trollable. Thank you. Now back to the video.
People for homosexual activity, for example.
Sir, again, okay, TB, you got to go and take your man with you. Y'all are stupid. I tell you they dumb. They don't know Black people, but they still bringing up weave when the majority of our women are getting away from weaves. But all right, you got it. You got it. We had fun, family, but we got to let the ignorance go.
But saying that you're going to give government benefits to people based on quote-unquote who they love, it really isn't about that. It's about you're trying to, if the government's to be involved at all, it's about attempting to incentivize family formative structures. The government has pushed too far in the other direction, actually. Right? I mean, this is one of the big problems of many of the welfare programs of the 60s, which explicitly were meant to benefit people who did not have a father in the home and led to perverse incentives where people were not getting married, specifically because the government was offering more money not to get married.
Hey, Benjamin, let's talk about the Jewish people that are on welfare. Let's talk about that one time. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't. I'd rather have that.
I want to go back to your book because I think I agree with your argument that envy is the driving force behind what you call the scavenger market. Like you described it as an irresistible force that fuels resentment and entitlement. Could you expound on that?
Sure. I mean, I think that, again, to go back to all of us, I think we all have this problem in our lives. We see people and we envy those people, and then instead of doing something to make ourselves better, we actually make ourselves worse in the process, or we attack systems that we think are responsible for that and tear down those.
All right, I'm done. I'm done. Oh my God. So he just described Trump and the right wing. Trump is envious of the owners and controllers of global financialized capital. He's envious of all those other billionaires that had access that he couldn't get to. And he sold out the country so he could get that access. And then you have the right wingers that are following him saying we should be like President Trump because he works so hard and he never stops to love America and he hugs flags. And they claim that he's doing all these things to make America better when he's just carving us up for Asia. Okay. I think we got enough out of that. But anyway, y'all. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, I done my job. If not, I try to be better next time. I'm going to go rest. Get ready for this live later. And finish up this Killian Dane video. I ain't got nothing else to say. Y'all take care, stay safe, and you know what to do when the agents of chaos come to mess up your existence.